Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Mindclickers Season 6, Episode 2, where it's time to click both heads in 2025. Today, I'm joined by someone who's redefining how esports is introduced into schools across the Asia Pacific. Dan Martinez is the founder of the Fuse Cup, an international network of schools developing structured, safe, and supportive esports competitions for students from years 5 to 12. With a focus on positive gaming behaviors, digital wellbeing, and curriculum alignment, the Fuse Cup is more than just a competition. It's a movement that's reshaping how we engage the next generation of gamers in education. Dan, welcome on board.
Hey, Lachlan. Nice to be on board. Thanks so much for having me on.
No, absolutely. I'm so keen to jump on this episode today. As most of the listeners know, and probably as you know as well, most of my time within esports and gaming has been, pretty high end at the professional elite level. And I've always been curious about schools and I guess primary school, high school, university level esports as well. So I'm sure I can take a lot from today, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners can as well.
Likewise, we're always really keen to hear about the things from the pro circuit and the pathways between schools and pros, which I think is what a massive gap we have. So I think these conversations are really important to connect, the bridge between primary school, high school, and college or universities, and the pros for sure.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So take us back. What were you doing prior to Fuse? And I guess what was the trigger for you to, start Fuse, jump into Fuse, and I guess create what's such a fantastic program now?
Yeah, thanks, man. I was a primary school teacher for about 20 years, but I focused on digital pedagogy. So teaching kids how to use technology, teaching teachers how to use technology, implementing whole school technology practices. And then I moved into like K to 12 schools, so larger schools doing that. I was always a gamer, always a hack, just nothing professional, just always sort of something positive that I did with mates. Um, and as I grew, and as your friendship circle broadens and people move overseas, I still had a core group of mates that just played whenever we could. Great way to connect, and just for my own mental well-being, it was something that I really craved. But when I was in schools, I'd hear things from kids like, "Oh, grinding till 3 o'clock," or that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, there's a bit here that I think we probably need to do, because kids just had no idea about those healthy boundaries. And not just that, at that particular time, that was like 2019 or so, and esports was booming.
Yep.
And I was thinking, why are these kids involved in school esports at that particular time? That in Australia, there weren't that many opportunities for kids to engage, especially in what I thought was really important, which was the face-to-face esports. There's enough opportunities online for everything.
Yep.
So I wanted to create something that was face-to-face. So I thought, why don't I try doing something that is face-to-face, but also messaging kids around, healthy boundaries, around sleep, around exercise, things that are important to kind of get them to play, longer rather than just, more. So I quit my job in 2019, end of 2019. I thought, here we go, we're going to launch Fuse, let's go crazy.
Took the leap.
And then March, I took the leap, quit the job, and then COVID hit, and I was like, whoa.
Oh, yeah.
I put massive brakes on everything worldwide. It did allow me to kind of think about engaging international schools in a bit of a different way. So we kind of shifted a little bit of focus towards international schools. And then while we're based in Queensland, in around Australia, Queensland probably had one of the lightest approaches to COVID in terms of closures. So it allowed Fuse to get back on its feet pretty quickly and start implementing those face-to-face competitions. And I think that helped build a bit of FOMO around the country, because everyone was, wanting to be at school, wanting to be engaged in these things, but they could see it happening. So I think COVID, while it was massively caused issues for sure, but it also helped in some regards.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely an interesting sort of insight, and yeah, brutal and tricky to sort of, I guess, launch it and then have COVID hit and try and micromanage that, especially with the in-person aspect of it, right?
Yeah, yeah. The core focus has always been on face-to-face. Just because of, so many potential infrastructure difficulties around running a national framework of competitions that are supposed to happen in school.
Yeah.
We are aware, and we know that there are other competitions that happen outside of school. And they're great, but they also come with their own set of risks
Mm.
for schools. And there were things that I wasn't prepared to kind of go down. So our commitment was always to face to face. So yeah, COVID was a big challenge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I could definitely see why face to face would be such a benefit, especially for young kids, having that social interaction and I guess
Mm.
sharing those experiences with friends, with meeting new friends as well, and having I guess that bonded relationship over gaming in an in-person
Yeah,
setting.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, awesome. What was it like, I guess, when you first launched it? What was the first school that you targeted? How did that sort of happen? And how did you, I guess, gradually expand? What was that whole process like?
I guess the benefit that I had in starting a business like this was that I already had an established network of schools and teachers that I'd built over 20 years.
Awesome.
So um, I think that helped us get into a lot of schools quickly
Hmm.
rather than, having those difficult conversations about where does esports fit in
Mm,
schools. And around that time, there were a lot of schools having those conversations. So yeah, as I said, I'd already built up, a bit of a network and a reputation as being someone who, can deliver on projects within the education network around Australia, and through my work with Apple and Microsoft, that network was national.
mm.
So that helped as well. Um, but yeah, I think the very first school that signed was may have been like Marsden State High School or something, someone who didn't have any connection with at
Right.
all. And I was like, "Well, this is amazing! This is great."
Yeah.
So that was very positive.
Yeah, awesome. All I can think about is like back when I was in primary, even high school, how much I would have loved having something like this. Because it would have been such a crazy, I guess, thing to have. In hindsight, thinking back, when did I graduate high school? 10 years ago now. So yeah, going back a little bit. But yeah, having that, I guess, competition, having like a school versus school, even like it would have been such a crazy, even not even thought about thing back when 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. Like as a kid who's grown up playing games the whole life,
Yeah.
I would have loved it too. And it's funny, looking back at my um, career as a teacher, I always kind of use video games wherever I could. Like I completely forgot about this, but I was at IEM, in Melbourne a couple of months ago,
Yeah.
and one of the kids I taught in grade 4, who's now 24, so 15 years later, like Mr. Barnes, I'm like, hey, and we were chatting away. It's like, do you remember that rock band competition we did in grade 4? And I was like, oh my god, I was
Elite.
like, yeah, that was sick. And he's like, I love that. That was so cool. So I've always been interested in using technology that engages students,
Yeah.
and I don't think anything engages students more than video games.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It must be pretty crazy to have that full circle experience and I guess see that full, I guess, pathway, yeah, development.
Yeah, it was really cool. He's now working in cybersecurity and IT, and is a crazy Counter Strike fan. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome. Love that. What was the, I guess, when you first, I guess, obviously contacted schools, had such a good connection with schools, was there ambivalence? The one thing I think straight to is funding. Do a lot of schools have, I guess, the funding for something like this, or how does that sort of work?
Yeah, look, it's schools are good. The way schools are funded is really interesting. Like,
Mm,
if you think about the global funding of a school, that means all the money that school gets in,
yeah.
um, it gets in and then it gets divvied off into different departments, and often the person you're speaking to, if they're not in that top tier leadership position, or if they're not in the, deputy principal, head of curriculum roles, they won't understand how much money the school's got overall. They'll just know
Mm,
how much is in their little pie.
yeah.
And often, if they've not budgeted for something, it makes it difficult for them to be able to, have maneuvering to get in. The good thing about what we've built with Fuse is some schools fund it under wellbeing, some schools fund it
Yeah.
under student engagement,
Mm,
some schools fund it under technology, some schools fund it under, community. If you're creative and you know the right buckets or the right people to talk to in schools, often, the funding isn't. It can be an issue for some schools, and some schools come to us like, we can't afford this.
mm,
So what we'll do is we'll say, okay, well, why don't you jump in for one free competition this year, see if you like it, and then budget for it next year.
yeah.
Um, But at the end of the day, we are a business and we need funding to be able to operate, to be able to offer this service.
For sure.
So um, it's just one of those things that we've kind of picked a registration range that we fit is fair for the. I mean, it's 3 competitions and 6 digital wellbeing workshops per year for the kids.
Awesome.
Um, Often, if you get someone to come into your school to run a work, like a wellbeing workshop or any kind of workshop, you're looking in excess of $1,000 for
Mm,
the day. You're kind of like, well, if you could have put it into that perspective, we're under that, and we offer 3 full days and 6 workshops. So,
a little bit more.
and it's also a very low barrier, for a couple of grand to be able to get a program up and running in your school
Mm.
that includes interschool sports. If I came to you and said, "Hey, LBP, would you like to start a cricket team, but you got no gear, you got nothing,
Yeah.
and we're going to put you into a competition," like you have to invest. There's got to be some level of investment.
I like that. Yeah, smart. Definitely a way to sort of help encourage schools, and I guess the schools that are a little bit ambivalent about it in terms of that, yeah, help, I guess, get them across the line a bit more.
Yeah, for sure, because often they don't know what they don't know. So I actually coming in saying, "Look, just come and have a look." We don't hide anything from anyone. When they do come in, often the feedback is, "Well, this is not what I thought it would be." There's breaks, kids are up and moving, they're chatting to each other. You're talking about things like, cybersecurity, or you're talking about loot boxes and gambling mechanisms in games. Like we
Yeah.
didn't, schools have no idea that we do that.
Yeah.
But once they see that, they're like, "Oh, okay, this is a program. This isn't just kids playing against each other."
Yeah, no, awesome. I think that external education is such an important factor, and even as I'm going to reflect back a lot, but yeah, reflecting back, we had no idea about loot boxes, and I guess that other prospect back in high school. Obviously, it was there, but it wasn't talked about. It was almost like one of those
Mm.
things that sort of existed, but yeah, I think having those conversations early is such an important thing, especially for kids nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we know how competitive the industry is for game developers. They've got to keep people playing, and
Mm.
and sometimes they use some interesting tips and tricks to kind of get kids playing for longer. And I think education is really important for the schools and for the parents and for the kids around that.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. I love the provision of education, and sort of thinking about that. I remember we when I reached out to you not too long ago, you sort of reminded me of when we were up at the Bliss HQ up in Queensland, and we did a little bit of stretching sessions. And I always see the video of myself doing some different hand stretches plastered around, which I
Yeah,
think's
is you and Hunter doing these ones and
yeah,
these ones?
doing these ones, getting all the kids to replicate it, which I think is awesome. Is there any other sort of, I guess, physical stuff or mental, cognitive stuff that the kids get to learn from that sort of perspective?
Yeah, look, we're kind of always looking at ways to. I mean, at the end of the day, we are a gaming organization. Like, we want kids to be playing games. That's our
Yep.
major focus around the tournament. So all these things we do are, above and beyond what we want to deliver. So we're always looking at different ways to sharpen and improve what we do. Sometimes that time is limited. So there's always times for different workshops. And the workshops are always topical and based on what's happening at the moment,
Yep.
or age appropriate. The other thing we've started doing this year, which has been great, is we've been getting kids to understand that when you're in high school and when you're attending these events with like-minded people who kind of live within the general vicinity of where you live, it's not a bad opportunity to practice some networking skills. So we get kids up, we give them some topics, and they're all awkward. They're like, "I don't want to talk to someone." It's okay. And we might give them like 3 things to say, and they'll get up and they'll move and they'll have a little conversation. They'll sit back down, and
Yeah.
and it just breaks the ice and gets them kind of more open to talking to other people. So we've been doing that a little bit
Mm.
this year, and it's been a nice addition.
Nice, awesome little icebreaker to help, warm them and make them a bit more encouraged to just communicate, create relationships, create bonds. I love it.
And just practice communication skills, because you've seen it a million times. You get someone who wins the competition, like, "Oh my god, that's amazing. How do you feel?" Like, "Good." You're like, "No," you're like,
PR
like,
team,
I
where's
think
the
as
PR
an
team?
industry. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. I think as an industry, like, we want things to, become more professional. We want
Yeah,
things to develop. So we want to help train those younger kids that, hey, when you win, if you're going to be asked something, like, talk about how hard it was, talk about your training, talk about things that didn't go well in the game. Don't just say it was okay, it was good. Like, you know, just open. We were trying to kind of instill that in the younger kids a little bit earlier, and sometimes it's pretty hit and miss, and you always still get those. Yeah, I feel good. So it's like, all right.
Yeah, that one guy's been playing for the last 5 years. Yeah, it was pretty easy. Yeah, just pretty cruisy.
Yeah, yeah. No, I didn't sweat much. Yeah.
Love it. On the
Yeah.
topic of games, so what games are you currently covering? Is it? I definitely think I've seen potentially Mario Kart, Just Dance, potentially.
Yeah, so we do Mario Kart, Just Dance, Rocket League, Super
Nice.
Smash, Minecraft.
Hmm.
We've launched the national Beat Saber competition.
Oh, cool.
And then in the past we've run one day Fortnite comps and things like that as well. So looking at, I mean, our whole remit is we want the games to be as appropriate as possible. Um, we understand that these may not be the games that kids love playing at home or playing at a professional level, but
Mm,
some of those games like Counter-Strike or Siege and things, it's a hard sell in schools from
absolutely.
my perspective, because if we're talking about us being a gaming organization that's focused on well-being, it's hard to have those conversations when you got people planting bombs and terrorists and people killing each other, and
Yeah.
it just makes it quite difficult for schools to have that authenticity. So at this point, pretty much from the start, we've not had any first-person shooters. It has taken us a long time to kind of open up to Fortnite,
Mm,
but I think what Fortnite is now is very different to Fortnite, what Fortnite was 5 years ago.
yeah.
So my role around that, even when I have introduced Fortnite, some schools are like, oh, I'm like, no, no, no. When was the last time you looked at it? Like, are you aware that there is a whole plethora of games in there that don't involve any shooting? It's more like a Roblox kind of environment with
Yeah.
thousands of games. Um, and it was included in the Singapore Olympics a couple of years ago, and it's got things like Disney and Marvel and all those things that you and I know, of course. But
Yeah.
if you haven't looked at it, you haven't looked at it. So why would you know those things?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's definitely a crucial thing. And we have this conversation all the time, I guess, about spectator sports and I guess friendliness and viewer friendly. And obviously some of those FPS games don't always tick that box for sure. I guess I was
Mm.
lucky in getting into Rocket League because that's such a, I guess, kid friendly,
Yeah.
demoing another car. Maybe that's I think that's okay. But
Yeah.
but yeah, just from a, I guess, viewing perspective, it's so easy to understand as well. Just three cars, you're just playing soccer on a field, right? So I think
Yeah.
it's a pretty
Yeah.
easy sell.
And it's also a sell that the schools have to be comfortable with too, because
Mm,
they're always they have to field complaints for parents or the complaints from the community. So having child friendly or age appropriate games ticks a big box.
yeah, absolutely. Do you choose which games the schools get to play, or do the schools themselves choose? Hey, I want to have a competition with this game. How does that work?
Yeah, so we run our registration as a season-long subscription.
Cool.
So they sign up for the year, and depending on the year level, they'll get 3 games. So
Okay.
year
Cool.
5 to year 9, or year 5 to year 8,
Hmm.
they play the same games.
Cool.
So they got Mario Kart, Just Dance, and Rocket League.
Yep.
And then year 9 to 12, they've got Rocket League, Super Smash, and Mario Kart.
Cool. Yeah, a little bit of
And then
a difference.
we have like one day or events for like Beat Saber that we just do outside of that season.
Hmm.
Um, and same with Minecraft, we've got to capture the flag and an online build challenge, and they're just kind of like pay per competition type thing.
Yeah, awesome. Love that. There's a few different pathways I want to expand on there. I guess one being Beat Saber, and obviously we've talked about it's talked about in the industry nowadays, the whole idea of gamification and using VR as a good tool for, I guess, even physical activity, right? What are your thoughts
Mm.
on that? And I guess the provision of using VR for, I guess, engagement.
Oh, look, it's if you think, as we know, video games are engaging, but you wait till you pop a headset on, that feels great. Like that's next level engagement.
Yeah.
The issue the schools have had for a very long time, though, and I knew this before I even started Fuse, as my
Right.
experience with technology in schools, is that the way your VR headset works at home, the way your VR headset works at school are two different things.
Okay.
Because a VR headset is designed to be one user. It's not designed to be a commercial model where you sell
Yeah.
100 to an organization. We think about the most popular, VR headsets, whether it's Oculus or whatever it is,
Mm.
the Meta Oculus. It's directly linked into a Facebook account.
Right.
What happens
Yep.
if I'm a school and I buy 20 of them? I'm like, oh, now I've got to have 20 Facebook accounts. And like the schools don't like that at all. So
Mm.
for a very long time, VR was one of those things that schools were really interested in. And then they kind of didn't have a solution on how to, use it. So I kind of sat there and but used bits and pieces here and there. Um, but there are some organizations, and we partner with one in particular, who have an incredible solution around VR in schools.
Wow.
And I, was fortunate enough to go to a conference last year in Melbourne and saw 50 teachers using a headset at the same time, like 50 teachers, 50 headsets, in
Yep.
a public Wi-Fi space, all working. And I was like,
Wow, that's crazy.
whoa! I'm like, what kind of dark arts are you guys using here? So we started chatting, and I was like, all right, so if we're going to do something with VR, we have to work with you.
Yep.
So from a technical perspective, that's been solved, but it's still challenging because it's every school's got a different Wi-Fi environment. It's hard to bring your own Wi-Fi into schools. You need a solution that manages all the headsets at once.
Mm-hmm.
Um, from a physical activity perspective, it's awesome. Like it's
Mm.
so good seeing kids up, and like that's why we use Just Dance as well. It's
Yep.
physical, it's fun. Um, but you're swinging your arms around or even like boxing or something in VR for 10 minutes, like you get a sweat. Like
Mm.
you really, really get a pretty good workout. So um, it's highly engaging. It's not ready for mass deployment in schools, in my opinion.
Yep.
And even our Beat Saber competition this year is the first time we ran it.
Mm.
It ran well. We've learnt a lot. But maybe a quarter of our schools are ready for it. Like others were just like, no, too much. Like we just, we've got too much on our plate.
Yep.
And that's the other thing. Schools are really overworked.
Mm.
So bringing in something new that can be technical and challenging is a big ask, and is becoming an even bigger ask.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a bit tricky to, I guess, implement with those schools who are a little bit ambivalent. From the technical side, when you're setting up, what does that involve? I guess, does it involve sort of having a space like an auditorium or a computer lab or just like an open sort of community center at the school to sort of set up and host the events?
Yeah, like I kind of always when I started Fuse, again using my knowledge of schools, like how do I do this in the easiest way possible so it doesn't become network administrator hates my guts because I'm asking
Right.
for all this stuff to be done. Um, so that's why like most of our competitions are just plug and play. They're all console based.
Yep.
We run some PC comps, but if that's the case, we bring our own Wi-Fi, bring our switches. We connect everything ourselves. But it's always hall, auditorium, or double classroom, depending on the size.
Yep. No, cool. Yeah, interesting. It's definitely sort of cool to see that see that I guess environment set up for the kids that they're familiar with, and they can have a bit of fun in that environment.
Yeah, and look, a lot of the kids, whether they're a PC player or a console player, like a lot of them have the ability to kind of switch across both
Mm.
because most of the times they're using, controllers anyway. Um, they'll obviously have a preference, don't get me wrong, but
Yep.
sometimes you're like, well, I understand your preference is A, but at school we're playing with B, so if you want to be part of it, you have to play with B.
Yep.
And for 80% of the kids, they're happy to do that. You
Mm.
get your top 20%, like, I'm not doing that, like that's okay. And those kids always make me laugh because when I was at school, someone's like, you could get a day off for playing Pac-Man or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't my game, I'd be like, I'm learning that game. Like I want to, have a go at it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I
Literally whatever game it was, I would give it a crack.
100%.
Whereas kids these days seem to be really kind of focused on a couple of games, and that's all they want to play. Like they're not interested in anything else.
Yeah, they sort of just want to have one specialization, and that they want to master that in a way.
Mm.
Do you think that
Wait,
I'm just sort of
yeah.
thinking, do you think that, like, I'm just thinking about maybe someone who's playing Rocket League or someone who's playing Minecraft, and then they have the option of playing Just Dance, like, oh, that's not cool, and that whole cool perspective leaches in with their
Yeah, look,
peers.
and that's why we offer different games,
Right.
because we want different kids. Like we want like offering Just Dance was strategic, and it wasn't just something we thought, well, let's do it because it's fun.
Mm.
Like, after the first year, we turned around and we looked and we're like, we have no girls in our competition.
Mm.
Or, we have like 5% of our competition nationally with girls. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is not the competition I want to be developing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and at that time, we also had FIFA in, and FIFA was problematic. It takes too long, and it had issues around it. There are very specialized people who play it who don't want to do anything else.
Yeah.
So we ditched it and we threw in our Just Dance, and it was one of the better things we did because it transformed. It made it so much more inclusive. It
Mm.
transformed our competition. It also gave girls the confidence to have a go at something and go, "That was awesome. I want to now try out for Mario Kart,
Yeah.
or I want to try out for other things." And not only that, there's also a whole bunch of other boys who like to dance who don't like other video games.
Yeah.
So, when we have Rocket League, we have a very select group of kids who play that around the country. We don't often see those kids in other competitions, or sometimes we do.
Yeah.
Like they're not in our Just Dance comps. They might be in our Mario Kart comps, but
Mm.
they're always in the Rocket League comps.
Yeah.
The Mario Kart kids are more kind of casual. They might be, someone who's just had a go at it and got chosen. But that's the kind of difference between the game. Playing casual Rocket League versus someone who's really good at it is a bloodbath. Playing, playing casual Mario Kart against someone who's really good at it, kind of comes out in the wash type of thing.
Can get away with it in a way. Yeah. I've
Yeah,
definitely had that
yeah.
experience of Rocket League. Yeah, wow. When I first got into it.
Yeah, well, so
Absolutely.
the first year I put it in, I forgot to put in a mercy rule, which is
Oh,
something
okay.
that as a school organization, you probably need to think about, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't. And we started and like maybe a third of the way into the season, things were pretty even. And then it just became really apparent. We had a couple of runs where we had some kids who were just different. They were
Mm.
just way
Just
better
built
than everyone
different.
else. And they're smashing. We're talking 7-minute games. They're, getting 25, 26 goals.
Oh, wow.
you
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
and we're just like, oh my God, this is not good, and that poor other kids is demoralized.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I kind of put in a rule. I was like, look, this isn't fair. If you're winning that by that much, you're not getting anything out of it. And if you're losing by that much, you're definitely not getting anything out of it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we now have a mercy rule, and when kids hit it, they just look at each other, GG, and that's it. It's done.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good way to I guess, um, sort of deflect discouragement, because I think what I think about is in terms of those kids who are super competitive but then end up losing as well. Like in Mario Kart, for example, a little bit more RNG based. If you get a
Mm.
shell and you knock someone off, and all of a sudden they're first on the last corner, and suddenly they're eighth. How do you? I guess what's the approach to handling kids who maybe throw a bit of a tantrum or get a bit upset about losing?
Yeah, look, that's been a fundamental thing that we've thought about from day one. Like that's part of the reason why we also run the competition, because for a lot of the kids, a lot of the kids who engage in our competition don't engage in any other traditional sports, so they're not used to that formality around. Well, what happens, if I chuck an Arno on the soccer field?
Yeah. Yeah.
What happens if I lose my what I mean, at a footy ground,
Yeah.
or the netball player, goes off at someone else? Like it's no different. So we have a system around behavior management. We make it really clear at the beginning of the year when we send out all our stuff to schools, but also at the beginning of every competition. Because I'm a football freak, we just have a red card, a yellow card, and red card. So we talk to the kids if there's something that we see that isn't great. It's a warning to start with. If it continues, it's a yellow card. If you keep going, it's a red card.
Nice.
Um, and we also talk about the fact that playing games and competing with other people is an opportunity for us to build resilience. And
Yeah.
sometimes, like you said, the RNG just kills you. It's got nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
So rather than crack it, you just go, oh, this game is annoying, and that's about it. So we don't let kids be toxic towards, their teammates, towards themselves, even, towards competitors. We don't let them blame things like controllers or TVs or monitors.
Hmm.
Like, you're here for fun. It's not the World Cup. Enjoy yourself and understand that this is an opportunity to learn if things don't go my own way.
Yeah, no, I love that. Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely, I guess, a good way to, I guess, encourage that promotion and engagement. Definitely some of the things like monitor height, keyboard angle, some of the pros definitely have a bit of a hissy about. Been there, done that. But yeah, no, it's a good way to, I guess, promote kids to, I guess, be encouraged to participate, but not feel demoralized when losing. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. And when you are a pro, well, maybe you have, maybe that's justified. You've built a system that helps you play at that level. You know, it's like a footy player has their own rituals around these are my boots. I like things a certain way.
Yeah.
Or this is my cricket bat. This is the type of bat I use. This is the type of keyboard I use. This is monitor height I need.
Mm,
Maybe those things are warranted,
yeah.
but not at a primary high school level.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, One of the things that I was really interested about is obviously, and I guess it's a nice add-on to what we just spoke about, is the transition. So I guess from from primary school, high school, even into university, is there, I guess, for the kids an understanding of esports pathways and what the expansion looks like potentially into uni, potentially from a career perspective as well?
Yeah, look, I think that's the biggest thing that we kind of need to develop here in Australia.
Yeah,
Like, not the biggest, there's some other big gaps in some other areas as well.
yeah,
Um, but I think the pathways between high school and university seem to be getting a little bit better with more universities having esports clubs or even offering diplomas, whether they're, valid or useful or not, whatever, it's another conversation.
yeah,
Um, but the fact that universities are understanding that this is important to high school students and catering for that at their university
yeah,
in some capacity means that pathway, no matter how tenuous it is there.
yeah.
Um, Pathway from there or from high schools to pros is something that is almost non-existent.
Mm.
I think there's some work that needs to be done there. Um, sorry, I'm just
You're
getting
good.
over a bit of a cold.
No, no stress.
Um, I think the pathway between like university and the industry is something that um, yeah, it's still a small industry here in Australia anyway.
Yeah,
So how you go about getting a job in esports is there's no right or wrong way about it. It's either
yeah,
know the right people, volunteer, be a hard worker, have some capacity in some areas, bring a different skill set, offer someone something that they can't do in their own business in esports.
yeah,
Whenever we have jobs, people are like, oh, I'd be great at it. I love gaming. I'm like, that's not the job, right? Like, that's great.
yeah,
That's not the job. Like if you've got some marketing skills that you can bring to the table, it's awesome. If you've got some, journalism or tech skills that you've got that we don't currently have in our organization, that makes you stand out.
yeah,
Um, so pathways, yeah, I think is one of the things, as it's still a pretty young kind of developing industry, need to be worked on. But as we tell parents, as the industry develops and matures, as like there's so many people in the industry who aren't gamers,
yeah.
who are, or not aren't gamers, who are casual gamers, but they've got other skills that they bring to the industry, which only makes it stronger.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a fantastic insight because I get a lot of questions, especially from younger kids within that sort of high school area, who are sort of have followed my pathway as well throughout my pro
Mm.
years. And they always ask me, how did I get into pro esports? They might be at the amateur level, they might be, online on Rocket League, winning some, Grand Champ or SSL tournaments, and it's about making that next step. And especially within Australia, it's really just undefined. We look, I think the biggest comparative that we can make is towards America, right? Where they have collegiate esports, they have collegiate
Yeah.
universities who offer sponsorships, right, for players. Even there's a lot of European players that are going to America
Mm.
just to play Rocket League, right? So I think that's almost like the goal for Australia to get to, I guess, America level.
Yeah, and I think the universities now, you know, fall under three categories. One, don't have esports. No, it's not on our radar. Two, yeah, we kind of have some casual esports stuff going
Yeah.
on. And three, yeah, we have an esports program. We have teams and they play
Mhm.
against each other regularly. You know, um, that's kind of where most of them sit. So
Mm.
if I was super interested in it, I would be looking at what degree I'm going to be doing at a university that has, that third option, which has teams that play regularly, so that I can, be part of that team and be contributing to that team, learning whatever degree I'm working in,
Yeah.
um, but still being an active part of an esports community in a university.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fantastic sort of piece of advice, sort of having, I guess, an education based focus, but also, I guess, an insight into if a uni has a bit of an esports program they can get involved with. Because I think, especially within the Australian esports sort of umbrella, it's pretty close knit, right? There's a lot of people that know each other, and it is a lot of networking.
Mm.
Because that's primarily the reason I got a role, just by networking, and it was whether you draw it up to luck or whether you draw it up to right time, right moment. It is pretty tricky, but I think once you make that approach to start to, I guess, talk to people, create networks, create bonds, things do become a little bit more easier on that perspective.
Yeah, and look, as you're right, like it is a small community. It's a tight knit community. People are doing some great stuff in it. We've got some ideas around how to bridge that pathway between pros and high schools and universities and high schools. And more like, I think sometimes we have discussions with people and they don't recognize just how good some of the high school kids are. As you know, like you got a pro who's how old's Hunter now? He's like
He's
16 or
17, yeah,
17.
and he's
So when he got, signed, he was in high school.
yeah,
He wasn't in university. And we have people not at his level, but have some really good players
some
that
good
could
guys, yeah.
be developed. So Brendy, if you're listening, mate.
Pick him up
No,
early.
we've had some conversations around how can we strengthen that partnership? How can we strengthen that pathway? And how can we identify talent for pro organizations early?
Mm, I think that's definitely, the new, I guess, upcoming agenda that I guess a lot of esports teams have as well, because we look to Europe and we're signing pros that are 14, 15, 16, and they're demolishing pros that have got 5, 6 years of experience. And I think
Yeah.
the entry level is decreasing because the skill gap is, just so different.
That's the thing is can testify, the career of a player, the lifespan, it's a short-lived, like, and as you said, they're getting younger and younger when they're coming in.
Mm,
So how are we identifying these players? How are we developing them? How are we nurturing them? How are we preparing them for the pros? Like, what about, potential Olympic
yep,
selection?
exactly.
How do we identify these players? And I think that's something we're really interested in because for some of our games that are played at a professional level, like Rocket League, I'd have no doubt in saying that, there could be someone at Views that could potentially become a pro in 5 or 6 years' time, or might win a medal in some competition, whether it's a, Olympic competition or not.
Yeah,
Um, because, we watch Rocket League and we see what our kids can do. We're like, holy, how did it, like
yeah,
it's nuts, and there's just raw talent,
yeah.
so it's kind of like with the right development, it's interesting to see where we could take these kids.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think that's the beauty of Fuse as well, is that it's giving, I guess, opportunity, exposure to those kids who might just be at their home, not have an esports program, and they're just playing by themselves, they're just playing by their friends. But now it's giving them a little bit more of an exposure into a bit more of a competitive environment in person. I
Mm.
think that is the big difference.
Sometimes for kids that's awesome, and sometimes it's a wake-up call. It's
Yeah,
really interesting because you have like that whole, I'm a big fish in a small pond syndrome because I'm the best kid at my school, and
yeah.
you're like, that's cool. Now there's 20 schools here. Let's see how you fare
Let's
up
see.
against them.
Yeah,
And it's interesting to see those kids walk away. Some of them go, "Whoa, I really need to work on it." Like we've got one kid this year who is in year 11
yeah.
in Melbourne, Mentone Grammar, which is one of
Okay.
our really schools that are right into it. And he's just qualified for his first state final in Mario Kart. He's been playing in our comp since year 5, since year 6, and
Wow.
he's always been semi-final, grand final, semi-final, grand final, and he's just never quite got over the line. And he's just always there. He's just, consistent. He just works hard, and he's like,
Awesome.
you know. So yeah, he's I think it's nice seeing that. It's nice seeing those kids who just don't give up, who have that persistent attitude. And he's the same as like, yeah, I'm
Mm.
good at my school, but there's other kids in other schools who are awesome, and I've got to work hard.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that resilience towards, working towards the goal and having a bit of a, I guess, an understanding that, you might be the best at your own school, but what other schools look like? What's the skill gap between different schools? And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's a good opportunity for those kids to be celebrated and recognized as well.
Yeah, awesome. I think one of the biggest, I guess, maybe overarching topics, and I think, probably a lot of parents are listening in. From a parent perspective, I imagine there's a lot of parents and a lot of parents have reached out to me about, I guess, ambivalence with their kids gaming and, are there's, too much screen time, getting addicted, all of these, I guess,
Mm.
negative connotations directed towards, I guess, whether or not it's social media or what the, I guess, broader industry displays as, I guess, gaming in its wider term, right? What sort of advice do you have, I guess, for parents from that directed route in terms of, I guess, the benefits of gaming, in terms of social communication, all those sort of
Yeah,
developmental
yeah.
things?
I guess the number one thing that parents, I would like them to consider and understand is that not all screen time is equal.
Right.
We know that. Sitting on the toilet scrolling Instagram or wherever you're doing it, flick, 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 flick,
Yeah.
and losing an hour, I think we can all agree is a complete waste of time.
Hmm.
That is not the same as me and you playing and strategizing for an hour, communicating, supporting one another,
Mm.
you know, working out what's happening. How am I going to support you? How am I going to lift you up when you're not doing well?
Yeah.
You know, that social engagement, that strategizing is not the same as just aimlessly pressing buttons, So, um, I don't think gaming fits under the same remit as screen time. I think,
Hmm.
like anything, without boundaries, it absolutely can. And without structure or without, we all know that sometimes when we had a crappy day, we just want to come home, put a game on for half an hour, and
Hmm.
just play, not talk to anyone, and decompress. Like
Yeah.
there's value in that too. Sometimes when we're playing with friends, it's a social thing. Sometimes we're really challenged to get past a level or to get up, to grind past a certain, part of a game, and there's challenge involved in that. When I'm just playing and I'm not chatting to anyone, it's not social, and I'm playing for hours and hours and hours, yeah, that's probably a problem.
Mm.
So there's different types of gaming, different levels of gaming, and I think having conversations with your kids around, okay, well, when we play, we want to play purposefully. Are you playing with other people? Okay, how long are you playing for? Are you competing or are you just socially hanging out? Like there are different reasons and different motivations and different outcomes for using video games. And it's not like social media in terms of just aimlessly scrolling and doing nothing, but they can have the same negative connotations, and it can be used in excess. In excess, everything is bad for you. So
Yeah.
having boundaries around how you use technology, how you use games, is really important.
Yeah, no, for sure. I really love that insight, and I think it's important to have a bit of a comparative process, right? In terms of, I think the age-old one is, I remember having a chat with a high school kid, and he said that his mum doesn't mind watching, like him binge watching a TV series for 4 hours, but 4 hours of gaming, that's a big no-no, right?
Yeah.
So very similar thing.
And often, and look, I got three kids, and I find it hard to find the balance myself. Like it's, I'm susceptible to losing time looking at stupid reels on TikTok and stuff as well. Like they're powerful tools. Like they're actually built to do that. So
Absolutely.
I know how they're built and I know how they're designed, and I still fall trapped to it. So if I'm going to tell my kids, well, you've been playing games too much, well, how much time am I spending on my phone?
Mm.
Like I've got to be looking at that too. So I think it's like the healthy conversations to have as a family around how
Yeah.
much are we using screens and what type of use are we having, and just being really open about it, because even adults fall victim of wasting time on wasting or having too much screen time as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the biggest piece of advice I have for parents as well is sort of that involvement and engagement, showing that, showing a
Mm.
bit of curiosity towards what they're doing as well, because I think that can help to
Ah,
make them feel a bit more understood. I remember,
huge, huge.
I think it was, I can't remember when, but I remember the first time I told my mum that I just joined an esports team, right? And we qualified for Sweden. And I said, I'm going to Sweden. She's like, you sure that's not a scam? Are you sure that's all? Are you sure that's legit? Are you actually going to Sweden? I was like, yeah, everything's all legit. And it's that little bit of like a disconnect, I guess, between realities of the old age versus the new age, and I guess where we are now. So I think showing a bit of curiosity can definitely help
Oh,
bring kids out of their shell.
and it also does wonders for the relationships between parents and kids.
Yeah,
Like actually playing with your kids, even if you don't like the game, but actually playing the games with them and being okay at being rubbish at it.
crap.
So much fun for the kids. Like, I play Fortnite now because my kids play Fortnite
Yeah,
and they laugh at me and like I'm terrible. They're way better than I am, but they're proud when I do well, and when I kind of win a game, like, oh, like look at that, like yeah,
you can actually do something.
yeah, or like if I res them, they're like, oh, you res me, that kind of thing. It's
Yeah,
it's fun because they saw where I started from. Um, and obviously as an old hack COD player, some skills are transferable, but
yeah,
um, playing with them, playing has really made a massive difference for our relationship. Huge.
yeah. No, I love that. I love that. It's sort of that joint, relationship and shared connection that gaming can bring as a whole, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic.
It makes those conversations easier around, okay, hey, listen, we've been playing for a little while. We're going to go out and, go and grab a drink, go grab a coffee, go to the park for half an hour because, we've all been stuck inside for a bit long. It's not good for us. I'm like, all right, well, let's finish this round. Let's go. That's different between me being downstairs. All right, everyone, turn your stuff off. We're going out. Like it's a different. Like I'm
Yeah,
involved in the process of having that conversation as a peer,
yeah,
rather than someone who doesn't understand. Turn it off or pause the game. You can't pause the game. Like
yeah.
those types of things. It's an understanding thing where parents, if they involve themselves a little bit more in the kids kind of world around gaming, the benefits are huge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think one of the good things is setting, even just small goals, smart goals or
Yep.
goals as a whole to sort of create something that's measurable and achievable, with kids to I guess create that engagement as well.
Yeah, yeah. Or, schedules and, but understanding that gaming is an important part of a kid's life. Like one of the things that parents are starting to understand, and all you have to do is be at a school at the end of the day and listen to what kids say to each other before they go.
Oh yeah,
Because before they go, they get in the car. "All right, I'll see you on at 4 o'clock." Like all of them. What time are you going to be on? I'll be on at 4. I'll be on at 5. Like that's the extension of their playtime. They've been playing it. They've been at school. They've had little pockets to play with each other. They've been learning. End of the day, oh, I can't. I've got jiu-jitsu tonight. I've got netball tonight. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Like
yeah,
all those conversations that happen within 5 minutes as they walk past each other, they're setting up how are we going to play with each other for the next few hours.
love it.
And that's what it is. That's their playground.
Yeah, I used to race my mates home just to see who get on the game first. That was the winner. That was the true winner. Who was on first? Whoever can walk in the door and just piff their school bag down straight on the PC.
Yeah, straight away. You're sitting there, oh, where have you been?
Yeah, I thought you were getting on a little bit earlier. Oh well. No, love it. Yeah, I love I guess I think it's really, I really appreciate that, Dan, sharing a bit of insight towards parents who, and I think the big keyword is ambivalent, right? Just on the edge
Mm.
about whether or not, we address gaming, we sort of prevent gaming, and what sort of the goals should be in terms of, building our kids and helping to, I guess, promote, that connectedness.
Yeah, I think like I understand there's a bit of a fear of the kids gaming too much and
Yeah.
what kind of how's that going to help them develop and what kind of a person are they going to be? I think like anything, like kids need lots of activities. The gaming should be one of them. Should they only be gaming? Probably not.
Mm,
Like face-to-face outdoor interactions, traditional sport, hobbies. Away from gaming are really important as well. Like we want well-rounded, holistic people.
mm,
Um, if all they're doing is gaming, well, yeah, well, maybe there's a valid concern. Um, but casual gaming, playing with their friends, going and kicking a footy, playing basketball, playing netball, playing touch, whatever it is, you can do both. You can do lots of different things, and scheduling gaming into their week or their day um, is an important social thing for kids.
Yeah. No.
And for some kids, it's vital. For some kids, like that's how they make friends. Some kids have got no interest. You've got some neurodiverse kids who don't want to go out. They don't want to play traditional sports. They don't like body contact. They don't, for
Yeah.
whatever reason, this is how I connect. This is how I make friends. Like for those kids, gaming's really important.
Yeah.
But, having other outlets and other
Mm.
ways to engage social communication and physical activity in other areas needs to be part of their life too. But every kid's different. There's a different approach for everyone. I guess it's just, about knowing your kid, knowing what the boundaries are and being part of their world so that you can help make decisions with them around gaming is
Yeah.
important.
No, I'm glad you brought up the neurodivergency because I think I've had a lot of outreach from parents who are a bit ambivalent about, I guess, what that looks like for those kids. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, creating that bit of a comparison is important for sure.
Yeah, and understanding, with
Mm.
what the risks can be for neurodiverse kids around gaming,
Hmm.
but also what the rewards are. The
Absolutely.
rewards can be really powerful compared to the non-neurodiverse kids. So, um, but you're only going to know that if you're involved. You're only going to see that if you're participating, with them or close by.
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. Love it. That'll be made into a clip. Um, Now, I guess for as we sort of roll down the engine towards the hill, towards the end of the episode, for I guess some of the younger kids who are listening, they're in high school and they want to sort of continue with gaming, or they want to continue looking at gaming and being involved with it, or looking at pathways into the future. What sort of advice would you have for them in terms of this industry?
I think my biggest advice to someone like that or those kids would be think of this as a passion project, like something you're really interested in, right?
Yeah.
Don't put everything into it. Like what are the other things you're also good at, and what are the other things you're also interested in, and how can you combine those two?
Love it.
Like, if you're really tech savvy and you're really good at, connecting different devices and making videos, and great, make some content around gaming. Like,
Mm.
you know, show people that you have a skill that you can bring to the gaming, not just gaming. You know, like you know, look at someone like like Team Power.
Hmm.
You know, are they an esports team or are they a content creation team? You know what I mean? Or are they both?
Yeah.
Like, what sets them apart from other teams? It's that. It's
Hmm.
they all make content. You know, whether they make it themselves or it's produced or whatever it is. The thing is, like they can bring in revenue. And I think that's what esport teams kind of need to start transitioning towards a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because those that are just pure, like we just play and we don't make any content, you're like, yeah, but you're not bringing any money in. Like,
Mm.
how do we make a sustainable model where whether you win a tournament or not doesn't mean the end of your team, So having people that have skills that are, I'm a really good player at this and this, but I can also bring X, Y, and Z to an organization, I think is really important because
Fantastic.
the longevity of esports in Australia is something that's concerning. At a pro level, also, high school and
Mm.
um, you know, primary school level, with funding and things change or political agendas change,
Yeah.
those things have knock-on effects, So just like knock-on effects with, tournaments have started to kind of be taken away from Australia. These things have a big knock-on effect on the whole industry. So having kids who can come into either a pro team or, to fuse and can do things that I can't do is great.
Yeah, no, I think you've put it on a platter with a cherry on top. I think that's a perfect sort of way to put it. It's exactly how I got into esports. Realistically, drawing back, I got into traditional sport and exercise science, and then I was passionate
Yep.
about traditional sport psychology, and I sort of made the link that, hey, I've been gaming all my life. What if I transition that and sort of apply some of those skills I've learnt in this pathway that's already established, already has a
Mm.
really good solid foundation, and apply that to gaming and try and build something from the ground up. So I think, yeah, having a look at your skill set and being able to apply it to different areas, I think is, yeah, really smart.
Yeah, I think that's what you have to do.
Awesome. Absolutely. Now, for everyone listening and want to learn more about the Fuse Cup, where can we find you? Where can we find you, Dan? And where can we sort of reach out and connect?
So our website, fusecup.com.au, is more of a space for schools and parents.
Yep.
That's kind of um, it just tells them about the competition, how to sign up. Parents don't normally sign up to our competition; it's always schools. But we have had some parents who've said, like, "Can we sign up a team for my kid and his friends because they're really into Rocket League and their school won't let them?" And we're like, "Okay." We've kind of let a few of those slide in.
Yeah.
So that's one. My social media that I use the most is pretty much LinkedIn. So
Cool.
if you just look up Daniel Aivaliotis-Martinez or just a Fuse Cup, you'll find me
Yep.
on LinkedIn. If you're in Brisbane or anywhere in Queensland,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the month, end of November, we have our big state national finals at the Fuse Festival.
Cool.
So that's a 2-day event at Southern Cross University. And yeah, it's like lots of giveaways, few PlayStations and Xboxes and Switch
Awesome.
2s. And so it's it's a culmination of all of our competitions, but it's a public event as well. So loads of giveaways. So you can look that up. That's called fusefestival.com.au. And yeah, and then you've got my email on the Fuse website, so you can contact me directly through there.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll be sure to put everything in the description as well, on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, all the reels and everything like that, just to make sure it's all nice and easily accessible.
Awesome. No worries. Hey, thanks so much. This has been lots of fun.
Yeah.
It's great chatting with you and reconnecting again and seeing the hand stretches in action.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe a few more hand stretches in the future. We'll see what happens.
But like Kristen loves and hates that video because she's in it. And, we play it at every competition, and every year she's like, "Hey, do you reckon we can like maybe film another?" I'm like, "No, that was good. That was good." So,
Love it. Awesome.
but yeah, it's weird. You reached out, I'm like, "Oh, I know you. Well, I see you every day in those videos." So yeah, it's nice chatting again, mate.
Yeah, full circle. I'm sure that a lot of people are going to take so many pivotal insights from your, I guess, expertise and I guess development in this area. So yeah, again, really appreciate coming on.
No problem. Take care.
Thanks, mate.